Tecumseh's curse is believed to have started because of a conflict between President Harrison and Tecumseh. In 1840, William Henry Harrison won the presidency with the slogan "Tippecanoe and Tyler too," which referenced Harrison's role in the American victory at the Battle of Tippecanoe in 1811. While Tecumseh was the leader of the Shawnee, the opposing side of the battle, his hatred for Harrison actually dated back to 1809. While governor of the Indiana Territory, Harrison negotiated a treaty with indigenous peoples in which Shawnee ceded large tracts of land to the US government. Angered by what he considered Harrison's unfair tactics in negotiating the deal, Tecumseh and his brother organized a group of local tribes and attacked Harrison's army, thus starting the Battle of Tippecanoe. During the War of 1812, Harrison further reinforced his anti-indigenous reputation when he defeated the British and the tribes that aided them in the Battle of Thames. This additional defeat and the loss of more land to the American government is purportedly what drove Tecumseh's brother, Tenskwatawa, known by the Shawnee as the Prophet, to place a curse of death on all future US presidents elected in the years ending in a zero. So in 1840, when Harrison was elected president with almost 53% of the vote, he barely had a chance to settle into the office before his death. After delivering a very long inaugural address on a cold and windy day, he was struck in a rainstorm and caught a serious cold, which would eventually turn into the severe pneumonia infection that killed him only 30 days later. Harrison's inauguration was on March 4th, 1841, and he died April 4th, the same 1841. His death was forced in a series of tragedies that struck presidents winning an election at the start of a new decade, a pattern that would become known as Tecumseh's curse or the curse of Tippecanoe. Other victims of Tecumseh's curse are 1. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was elected in 1860 as the first person to run under the Republican Party. The United States quickly moved into a civil war, which would last from 1861 to 1865. On April 9th, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Ulysses S. Grant, thereby ending the rifts that was tearing apart the nation. Only 5 days later, on April 14, 1865, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by Southern sympathizer John Wilkes Booth. The second president to be affected by Tecumseh's curse was James Garfield. He was elected to the presidency in 1880. He took office on March 4th, 1881, and on July 2nd, 1881, Charles J. Guthrie shot the president, which eventually led to his death on September 19th, 1881. The mentally unbalanced Guthrie was upset because he had been denied a diplomatic post by the Garfield administration. He was eventually hung for his crime in 1882. The third president to be affected by Tecumseh's curse was William McKinley. He was elected to his second term in 1900. Once again, he defeated his opponent William Jennings Bryan as he had in 1896. On September 6, 1901, McKinley was shot by Leon F. Czolgosz. McKinley died on September 14th. Czolgosz called himself an anarchist and admitted to killing the president because he was the enemy of the people. He was electrocuted in October 1901. Another president to be affected was Warren G. Harding. Warren G. Harding was elected in 1920. He was widely known as one of the worst presidents of all time. Scandals such as the Teapot Dome and others marred his presidency. On August 2nd, 1923, Harding was visiting San Francisco on a cross-country voyage of understanding to meet people across the nation. He suffered a stroke and died at the Palace Hotel. Another president to be affected by Tecumseh's curse was Franklin Roosevelt. He was elected to his third term in 1940. He would be elected again in 1944. His presidency began in the depths of the Great Depression and ended shortly after the fall of Hitler in World War II. He died on April 12, 1945, of a cerebral hemorrhage. Since he was elected during one of his terms in a year that ended with a zero, he is considered part of Tecumseh's curse. The last president to be affected by Tecumseh's curse was John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was the youngest elected president in 1960. The charismatic leader suffered some highs and lows during his short term in office, including the Bay of Pigs invasion, the creation of the Berlin Wall, and the Cuban Missile Crisis. On November 22, 1963, Kennedy was riding in a motorcade through Dallas and was assassinated. Lee Harvey Oswald was found to be guilty as a lone gunman by the Warren Commission. However, many people still question whether more individuals were involved in a conspiracy to kill the president. And finally, the president who broke the curse, Ronald Reagan. In 1980, Ronald Reagan became the oldest man to be elected president. This actor-turned-politician also suffered highs and lows during his 2 terms in office. He is seen as being an important figure in the breakdown of the former Soviet Union. However, his presidency was tarnished by the Iran-Contra scandal. On March 30, 1981, John Hinckley attempted to assassinate Reagan in Washington, D.C. Reagan was shot, but was able to survive with quick medical attention. Reagan was the first to foil Tecumseh's curse, and some hypothesize the president who finally broke it for good. Ever since, President George W. Bush, who was elected in year 2000, and President Joe Biden, who was elected in year 2020, did not die in office, owing to the fact that Ronald Reagan had broken the pattern. Although Tecumseh's dream of a unified indigenous homeland never came to fruition, within 35 years of his death, many native nations east of the Mississippi River were forcibly relocated. Yet, Tecumseh remains celebrated today for his leadership and military skills, honored across North America as a symbol of resistance. Tecumseh's curse, also called the Curse of Tippecanoe, stems from an 1809 dispute between U.S. President William Henry Harrison and Shawnee indigenous leader Tecumseh. Some believed the curse is the reason Harrison and every following president up to Kennedy, who was elected in a year ending in zero, died in office. Ronald Reagan is viewed as the first president to survive after being elected in a zero-ending year, thus breaking the 140-year-old Tecumseh curse on American presidents. Please subscribe for more. Thank you.